Welcome to the 78th episode of The Game Changers. I'm Carla, your host for this episode, featuring Jim Coventry. His extensive expertise will provide invaluable insights into our discussions, where we will explore thought provoking topics to ensure a one of a kind experience for our audience. Special thank you for the TSA team for their support in creating this platform for meaningful conversations with community leaders and innovators like you. Join me as I delve into the stories and insights of my guests, especially in the realm of fantasy football. The Game Changers fosters a unique community, and I'm honored to share this journey with all of you tonight. So, tonight is going to be the last episode before my 2 month break, and then we will come back after for sure. So, thank you so much for coming on, Jim, for our last episode for this month. And I cannot wait to delve into a lot of things that everybody is waiting for. So let's talk a little bit about you. Jim Coventry. Who is Jim? Fantasy football analyst, author, and champion. With nearly 3 decades of experience in the world of fantasy football, Jim Coventry has established himself as one of the most insightful analysts in the industry. His journey began in 1994 when he first dipped his toes into the fantasy football waters, quickly proving his skills by winning a national contest just 2 years later. His expertise continued to shine with 5 top 50 finishes in national competition from 2008 to 2012 before he shifted his focus to daily fantasy sports, DFS. Since 2007, Jim has been sharing his expert knowledge, helping fantasy football enthusiasts sharpen their strategies and dominate their leagues. He officially joined RotoWire in 2016 where he brings his deep understanding of the game to their platform, hosting the RotoWire Fantasy Football Live Show, and providing analysis that fantasy managers rely on. Jim's influence extends beyond fantasy football. In 2013, he took his talents to the world of writing, publishing The Secret of Life, a thought provoking book on relationships that showcases his ability to dissect complex topics with clarity and insight. A finalist for the FSWA, Football Writer of the Year in 2022, Jim Coventry continues to be a trusted voice in the fantasy football community, offering winning strategies to both casual players and seasoned competitors alike. Whether on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio or through his work with RotoWire, Jim's dedication to the craft keeps fans engaged and informed. The moment that truly changed everything was the Expo, where Destiny brought Jim, Doug Orth, and me together out of all people. That meeting set the stage for a connection that sparked countless conversation and unforgettable moments. Since then, the past has been history, and Jim remains a vital presence in our life, a friendship like no other. Jim, thank you for being on the show tonight. How are you?
Wow, that was way too generous of an introduction. Thank you for that. Honored to be here. Last show for 2 months. Hopefully we leave on the right note. That's what we got to make sure we do here. Don't want you leaving on a sour note, so that should be fine. But no, you're doing wonderful work here, and this has just been great. 78 shows. I just, where has it gone? I remember when you were just getting started, and 78 later. So this has just been wonderful for the community and for people. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. You are like, everybody loves you. And you know that. We all know that really well. So everyone loves Jim Coventry, from the Expo to X to everything. You are who you are. And I'm like in front of the camera and behind the camera. So I am the one honored for having you tonight on the show. So let's talk a little bit fantasy football strategies and trends. So what's the biggest mistake fantasy managers make when drafting?
Not being what I call pliable in a draft.
Yeah.
We go in with this idea of a draft plan. We may want to get this player, or we may want 3 wide receivers very early, things like that. But every draft is like a snowflake. It has its own little imprint, its own little signature. And I was just in a draft the other day with the Sirius XM hosts, and I never take a quarterback early. But we got to the end of the 3rd round. I didn't like the wide receivers in the board. I didn't like the running backs for that value for that round. I took Josh Allen. Never did it before, but that's pliability in a draft. It's saying this is something I don't do, but you study that draft as it's going. And the mistake people make is they don't always do that. They don't necessarily look at the board. Which positions are drying up? What's next? What am I doing 3 rounds later? These are all things that a master drafter is able to do. You look ahead, but yet you're present in the moment. It's improvisational skills, but it's also knowing your valuation of players and realizing can't take this player here. So that's the common mistake I see.
Yeah, I see it a lot, and I've been watching you guys when I go to the expo. I'm no expert, but I do see a lot of people like doing. They are sometimes strategic with whatever they pick, but there's people that they're just like through money so they can get that specific quarterback or that specific running back because they think that they're gonna get them, the win at the end of the day, but what you're saying right now is you need to look at the board and you need to go and to learn from some mistakes that you did from last year so you can learn what's best for what's the best approach and how you can risk or not risk buying a quarterback that early or not. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jim. So what's the most underrated draft strategy that more people should be using?
So in the last few years, we have seen an approach toward going a little more wide receiver heavy early. Certainly there's running backs that go early. Some people take one running back early. It's called the hero running back approach. And I used that a lot last year. What I noticed was last year, there weren't a lot of running backs getting hurt. And I think the common answer is going to be, oh, it was an anomaly year. It just happened to be a weird year. Running backs didn't get hurt. I wasn't going to be satisfied with that. If that was the way it was, it was. So I started studying. So I learned a few things. I learned that the linebacker position in the NFL has gotten lighter and lighter and lighter in terms of body weight over the last 30 years. In the last 5 years, linebackers are as small as they've ever been. Here's the next thing I learned. Usually there's 3 or 4 linebackers on the field in a football game. Not anymore. Last year, 2. So what am I learning from this? Linebackers are smaller, so they can't hit the running backs as hard because they don't have the force. B, there's one less linebacker on the field, which means there's one less linebacker on the field. There's enough offensive linemen and the tight end to block all of them. So my theory is the running backs aren't taking as many hard hits in the open field. And that means I think that running backs are not going to get hurt as much as they used to. And what that means is I think we could turn back the clock to the old days and we might be able to get value by drafting running backs earlier than we have in the past.
Wow. So saying all of this, what's the best way to exploit positional scarcity in drafts?
If the draft trends of the last few years hold, it's taking that second good running back early. It's doing that. And that is going to be where the advantage is. And look, sometimes if you're in the 5th round and you don't like the wide receivers there, you might be able to take a 3rd running back as a flex. If you have a flex position. So I think that's where the market inefficiency is going to be. Right now in these early season drafts, crazy things happen, but it always comes around to August and things normalize. And I think the normalize is going to be wide receiver, occasional running back. The value is going to be at 2nd and 3rd running back. That's where your value is going to be.
How do you recognize regression candidates, Jim?
So every year when I research every player, I pretend I know nothing about them. I go back to, I call it the skids. I break every player down to 0 and I go back and I restudy their career. I restudy their last year. And so it gives me an opportunity to get a brand new look at a player, even though I thought I had preconceived notions. I try to bury those. So for me to find regression candidates, it's because I come in every year with a fresh set of eyes and relearn the players. That
Yeah.
allows me to identify, oh, there was something that wasn't quite right here. There was a situation the player had. Maybe there was injuries on his team, or maybe there were situations beyond his control. And I think I look for these differences. And when I find the differences, then I say, okay, this player is either in line for regression or for a better year. So regression, or what the other word for the opposite that would be, and I'm not sure what that word is. I don't think it's progression, but it's improvement. So yeah, I think that's where I find those differences.
So I heard a lot about handcuffing. What's your stand on handcuffing running backs? Is it essential or is it overrated?
So if my theory about running back injuries, there are still going to be people get hurt. Okay. Somebody's going to pull hamstring. Somebody's going to have a weird thing happen. But if my theory about fewer running back injuries is correct, if we're taking their backup and holding them on a roster, might not be using them. It's better off taking another running back who might be in a timeshare, who might be able to seize extra work. So the handcuffing idea, I get it. But if my theory about injuries is going to be right, and there are going to continue to be less injuries like last year, then I'm not going to do that.
Wow. So what's the hardest position to evaluate in fantasy football?
I don't know that one is more difficult than another. I really don't. They all have their own little quirks to them. Maybe secondary tight ends, the lead ones, the top 3 or 4, they're not difficult to project. But I think maybe wide or tight end 5 to 15, maybe into 18. That's probably the toughest area, because I don't think we ever get those right. Once in a while we hit on one, but I think most times that position is really difficult. We always want to find the next new thing, and that new thing, often those chances, they don't work. So maybe that's the one micro area that might be the toughest to evaluate.
Nice. So talking about, we always talk about the people, we talk about the players. We never talk about or we talk about managers and predictions and stuff like that. But in your opinion, what role does coaching philosophy play in fantasy football success?
Sometimes we overrate it. Sometimes if a player goes to play for your Chiefs, Andy Reid, I think we make some assumptions about players, and those assumptions don't always come true. And it's interesting because I know we drafted that Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5 years ago, and we thought he would be the next great thing, and it didn't work out. We thought because he was an Andy Reid, he was automatically going to become heavily weaponized and work out, and didn't really happen that way. And the changes they made in their offense, we thought Patrick Mahomes would be able to air it out. They had injuries. So I think the coaching thing, there are areas where you can exploit things, but sometimes we're going down a rabbit hole because like with Miami, we had Mike McDaniel. He had a great first year. Second year, he made some changes, had a great start, but the league caught up with him, and he hasn't had changes since. So sometimes I guess the one area you can maybe take it to the bank, those few situations like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, they've been coaching the offense, whether they're head coaches or often they're both head coaches, but some are offensive coordinators. But if they're the same guy and they've been around for a long time in a proven track record system, I think in those cases, they offer their players stability, but it's not a lot of cases. I think sometimes we might overanalyze the coaches unless they are an extremely known commodity.
Wow. So there's a lot going on right now with the training camps coming and, performances that we're going to see with the games coming up. But there's preseason performances and there's a lot happening before the actual football start. How Jim Coventry weighed training camp was versus actual preseason performances?
So preseason has become less and less of a big deal since COVID.
Yes.
Players don't do as much. They don't play in the preseason game. We used to have that week 3 preseason game where the starters played into the third quarter. We're seeing less and less of that. We're seeing some coaches, they don't even play their players. Basically, what we do in the preseason is we try to pay attention to some beat writer reports, and we try to read through the tea leaves. We try to read what's going to be speculation. We try to figure out what might actually be actionable advice. And a number of us that have been doing this for a long time, we've gotten decent at reading through the tea leaves and trying to throw stuff away. But you throw 80% the way of what you read. You really do, because some of it is overreaction. And I think there's less information than ever in training camp. But with what we do have, we really got to boil it down.
Yeah. What's a sneaky sign that a player is set for a breakout?
So, for instance, there's a player in Dallas named Jalen Tolbert, and not a lot of people are drafting him. When I break each player down to 0, I noticed last year that Jalen Tolbert had 4 games with at least 6 targets. And 3 of those games he had at least 82 yards, and the other one he had a touchdown. So when he was given the ball, he was very, very productive. And some of that production was without even a starting quarterback. Dak Prescott got hurt. So that said, it's signs like that. They don't always come to pass, but you look for these little micro trends that you saw in the previous year. And then, for instance, like I talk about Jalen Tolbert. Well, right now, unless Dallas brings somebody in, there's no competition for the other receiver next to CeeDee Lamb. So to me, that's where we kind of brew up. Wow, this player's hardly getting drafted, but somebody has a possibility. So we look for micro trends.
Yeah. So what do people misunderstand about mobile quarterbacks in fantasy?
I think people have a fairly good grasp of mobile quarterbacks for fantasy. We know it's a cheat code. We know that, look, Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback with the New York Jets. He's being drafted right around top 12 quarterbacks as a starter. And people realize that if he starts all year and he did what he did for Chicago a few years back when he ran for 1,100 yards, he's going to be a quarterback 5 or 6. So I think we're very well versed in that. We pushed Josh Allen to the top of the draft board. Now with Lamar Jackson at the top of the draft board. Jalen Hurts has always been way up there, and now Jaden Daniels. So I think these mobile quarterbacks, they move way up the draft board. We draft them very high. Even Kyler Murray, who hasn't been great with passing numbers, but when he's healthy, he runs. So I think that one is very well understood by the fantasy community. It's a cheat code.
Nice. So I was watching this week, the pick of, like, they were picking football players, and there's a really big impact on football players that they put themselves in a place that they're going to be picked first or second or first round or whatever. But there's a particular one that he was not picked as told. What's your intel on that? And how would you see that player? Is he going to be is something going to impact on his production, or is it going to be like, no, not because I was picked like in 6th round or whatever, I'm going to just show that I can do better than what everyone thought. So what's your thought on that for players?
So we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, who we thought could be drafted very early. His father thought he'd be drafted in the first 3 picks. Well, round 1, round 2, round 3. Now we're into Saturday. Finally, in the 5th round, Cleveland takes him. Here's what I'm hearing the problem is. I actually saw a video. So Cam Ward was the first pick in the draft. And the video is him and Shedeur Sanders standing out on the field, and they're talking. And Shedeur Sanders asked Cam Ward, "You want to do a rap video with me?" Cam Ward's like, "No, I want to be a football player. I'm only focusing on football here. I want to be known as an American football player."
Yeah.
And Sanders didn't like hearing that. And here's what goes on. If you're an NFL quarterback, you're a face of a franchise.
Sure.
And you are representing that organization. It's $1 billion group of franchises. You have to have a man being the face of your franchise. What Shedeur Sanders doing sounds like an adolescent. Well, I'm worried about rap. I'm worried about showing this and that. He wasn't worried about football. And his father apparently was telling which teams my son would play for and which teams my son would not play for. Well, the
Yeah.
NFL being a group of businessmen, they're thinking, well, wait a minute. If they want to think they're going to wield this kind of power, what if he gets on my team and he doesn't really like the situation? Can I trust him to go out and play? It was these ancillary things. It had nothing to do with talent, why he fell in the draft. It had everything to do about being the face of a franchise. Can we trust you? Are you going to make adult decisions? And I think teams were convinced that's not the case.
So the NFL was teaching him a lesson, to say the least.
Perfectly said. Yes, they were teaching him a lesson. Not to say, we're teaching you should do or stand a lesson, but they taught him a lesson by explaining to him without saying it in words. We're a business. Yes, we play a game, but we are a business. And everything hinges on that quarterback. The quarterback is, like I said, I'm going to repeat, the face of a franchise. That's a big responsibility.
I agree 100%. Everyone was talking about race, and they were talking about, a color and stuff like that. But in my opinion, it was not about race. Like, how many quarterback were of a different color and different races? And like you said, it was more about the dad, what he was saying, and it was more about what he was doing as well. I heard that he was asked to go to the combine, he didn't go, and he was asked to go to some like interviews. He didn't do the interviews. Did you hear about that too, Jim? Was that
so? It's not uncommon for a player to not run or throw at the combine. If a player thinks they are right at the top of that, like the best running back, Ashton Genty, he didn't test. There were a lot of wide receivers. They didn't. If you know and you believe you're at the top, you don't have anything to prove. Sanders made the mistake of thinking he had nothing to prove. He had a lot. Now, I think he threw it his pro day, but we know from the tape, he doesn't have the arm talent of an NFL quarterback. His arm was a little bit light in terms of strength. Now, you mentioned earlier, nobody could say this is a color thing, because who was the first player taken in the draft? Cam Ward, an African-American quarterback. So it's not color, because you wouldn't take Cam Ward number one. This is Shedeur Sanders thing. It has nothing to do with color.
I agree 100%. Thank you for giving your opinion on that. So moving forward, what's your favorite fantasy football format to play?
My format? So it is the auction league, where you bid on the players. You have a fictitious budget of $200 or whatever dollars, and that's my favorite. And I've had the most success in those leagues. There's a lot of extra strategy involved that goes beyond a regular draft. And so, those offer the greatest challenges. And I also think within that, it's very important. Like, if you're a competitive fantasy football player and you want to be in a league where you have a better chance of skill winning, then have more roster spots, more starting lineup spots, more bench spots. Because really, if you have leagues with less starting players, shorter benches, basically you are making sure everybody's in it all year long. And that's fine if that's what you want to do for a home league and have some fun. But if you're playing for competition, again, you have to make it tougher. So an auction, like the Kings Classic that I play in every year with that from that belt, it's like 14 teams. We have 3 wide receivers, 3 flexes, a bunch of bench spots. That separates those who are skilled from those who aren't. And you'll have somebody who'll have injuries and things, and that'll happen. But for the most part, year after year, those are the formats like auction league and very deep rosters.
That's awesome. So this year I'm gonna be watching in your room at the expo. Are you so excited for that, Jim? I know that the expo, your room is always like that. There's a lot of people inside with Sirius XM covering and everything. How excited are you to go to the expo this year?
I always love the people. That's what I love. I'm a people person. So I love being in the draft room because I know everybody there, and I could be a little more familiar with them and joke around a little bit. And it's funny because we have people transition in and out of the league every year, and sometimes the newer people, they don't get that playfulness. And so it's the room has changed a lot over the years. When it first started out, it was like you knew everybody well. Now it's like half of the room you know well, and the other half you don't. So you're not gonna take a shot at somebody you don't know because they're gonna think you're being serious, and they're gonna. But if I'm making that joke at Dave Richard or Bob Harris, we're just gonna laugh. Howard Bender, we're just gonna laugh. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. But yeah, that's the one difficult thing is that when there's newer people, you don't want to upset them. You're just trying to have fun. But yeah, that's it. And Doug says he's not joking with Jim this year. Well, that's all right. I know I could call out Doug, so I'll probably call him out 2-3 times. Not worried about that one.
I know. I'm not worried about that one either. Right, Jim? So,
oh my goodness.
What can you tell people that they never experienced the expo before? What can you tell them about that specific month and the expo itself?
Do not be shy. If there's somebody you want to say hello to, say hello to them. Most people there, 90+%, are there to be around people. So if you see somebody that Bob Harris, go say hi to Bob. Say hello to him. Don't say, oh my gosh, it's Bob Harris. I can't go say hi to him. Everybody's there for people. That's why everybody's there. Fantasy football, we all have a shared passion. That shared passion is what brings us together. So it's a weekend where you make friends, you reestablish friendships. It's a wonderful time with a lot of wonderful people. And here's the other thing. Bounce around. Don't get caught up too long in any one conversation. There's so many people. By hanging too long in any one conversation, you're missing out on opportunities. Enjoy it. You can always catch up. You can always circle back with people you met later. But that time that you're all there is invaluable, and it evaporates quickly. And you know what? Look, however you have fun. But if you really want to enjoy and get to meet people, probably don't want to drink too much. And do what you want. But I mean, if you end up getting where you can't meet people, you kind of miss out. But if that's what you want to do what makes you happy.
I agree 100%. My goal is to always have the fishbowl every single year. I love that.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
Listen, I'm collecting them. Every single year I go, I write the year that I went, and I have this the fishbowl.
Oh my goodness.
It's a really cool thing to look forward to, So that's mine. And I love seeing you, of course. I love going out and sitting and talking, catching up after every single year. I would see you, I would see Bob, and a lot of people that I miss talking to face to face. And it's important to have that connection with people. And the expo is bringing everybody together, and I cannot wait for it every single year. So can't wait to see you this year, going for lunch or but we have to know where we're going, Jim. We have to go.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want to share that story?
Yeah. So I come to learn after the fact, of course, Jersey's restaurant's popular, but it's so popular, like 3 locations. So I'm going to meet up with Doug and Carla for dinner one night at the expo at Jersey's. So I'm sitting outside the Jersey at the Centennial Park. Well, they're sitting by the Jerseys outside the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, I'm at Jersey's. Where are you guys at? We're at Jersey's too. Okay, I'm looking around. I don't see you. You see me? I don't see you. So then, however it is, we try to get it figured out. I don't know what happened, but we still didn't figure it out. At some point, we're like, you know what? Go to the expo party. Figure it out next year. The Red Lobster. We went to Red Lobster next year, and it was pouring out. That was so funny. Doug got to drop you under the canopy, and then he got to run in the rain.
Yes.
Good times. But at least finally the next year it got done.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was insane. I love it though. These memories are irreplaceable. So I love them. And I cannot wait. Maybe we will have another place that has 3 different places there.
Oh my gosh. Hopefully not.
So what are the most important settings in league creation for you, Jim?
I'm sorry, when we're setting in the football leagues?
The most important settings in league creation.
in league. So, like, I
Yes.
think it really is what I said earlier. Look,
Yes.
but do what's fun for you. If you're very competitive, like I said, more teams, more starting lineups, that that's the favorite setting. But if you're in a league where you want to have more fun with it, like I said, then less starting lineup spots, shorter benches, less IR spots. So it really goes that way. But in terms of settings, just standard PPR scoring, point per reception, scoring, and really there's no bells and whistles to it. Just just the basics. But it's all roster size and amount of teams in the league. But again, that's everybody's a little different with that. It depends what your goals are. But I know a lot of people who watch this are probably pretty serious about fantasy football. So, like I said, just expand those rosters out.
So Doug is saying a lot of stuff right now. I'm
Oh
not
my god,
looking at it.
he'll pay
So
for that.
I know. Yeah, he will.
Probably
So
about 30 minutes.
what's your best fantasy football trade that you've ever made?
Oh my goodness. You know what's funny?
Yeah,
Not many trades happen like in a lot of the leagues I do. These are mostly
really.
I'm playing mostly industry leagues. Most of them, again, they're bigger leagues, and so if you trade, it's almost like you kind of cut your roster short. It's very, very difficult to make trades.
Mhm.
Back in the day, like when fantasy football was like newer, like for me, like first 15, 20 years I played, that was where you would be able to fleece people. You could send them 3 players and get the player you wanted, and you still came out way ahead in the deal. But as the particular trades, I'm trying to, yeah, I'm not going to be able to exactly remember one trade, but really, it's just unfortunate. But I know so many people love trades are part of the game. But the groups that I draft with, I think everybody's so busy. If they're analysts, it's like we try hard in the leagues, but I think it's like if you have one league, you could just focus on that one league and look at everybody's roster and make those trade offers. Man, I'm like in 11 managed leagues and doing football all week for work. It's very hard. So it's a terrible answer, but that's kind of where it falls.
Oh, I get it. It's crazy sometimes. So you wrote a book. What can you tell me about that book?
You know what? Sometimes we overcomplicate life, but life's difficult. I won't sell that short for a minute. Life's very, very difficult. But
Yeah,
the one thing I think that you can't go wrong with is we say put other people first.
yeah,
Sometimes when we do that, we do it on our terms, and that doesn't work. It's finding a way to put people first on their terms, what's important to them. I think that is the big secret. And I think a lot of people, even though they think they're giving, they're actually being selfish when they give because, in a way, they're doing what works for them as opposed to what works for the other person. So I think that's the secret. It's finding out, it may put you out of your comfort zone to put them first if it's done in the proper way that they need. I think that's the real secret.
yeah. Is that book for sale somewhere, Jim, or
I
just
think it's so long gone. Yeah, I don't even think it's gonna be. Yeah, I don't think they're printing it anymore. So yeah, so no, it's
no?
on papyrus. I think it's on papyrus or something like that. Yeah, it was written in the when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
something like that. So, yeah, good luck getting that one now. So yeah, but
oh, I
unfortunately,
want to know. When I knew that you wrote a book, I'm like, I'm interested in that. I want to see that book. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So, from teaching to fantasy football to, hosting and everything else, how did this happen?
So I'm a retired teacher. For those that don't know, that I've been out of teaching for 3 years,
Yeah.
3 years. That sounds about right. And so I had been doing fantasy and teaching forever. Now, fortunately, it wasn't really until 2015 and on where the knowledge base of football got so high that you really had to specialize in football. So
Yeah.
if I could have retired sooner, it would have been great. But those early years, you literally information was still at kind of a premium. So you could really successfully do a lot of things like you could have a full-time job, you could keep up with football, you could catch up on football back in the day, back in the summer. Now it's a 12-month thing. So fortunately, though, those last few years of teaching, I've been blessed with a great level of energy. So I was always able to dedicate whatever time needed to both to be my best at both. So that definitely helped. But it was toward the end of teaching, it was tougher because, not in my 30s anymore. Heck, I'll barely be in my 50s anymore for a few days. So I'll be out of that. So energy, right? But fortunately, I had enough to be able to do those things. But it was great because the teaching was a wonderful thing for me because I'm a people person. I love to serve people. And so to be able to have done that for 33 years, that was amazing. But I also like to think that love that Doug Messianic era. Yeah, it's about right. It's about right. Oh my. I think there were leather helmets in football when I started covering fantasy football in the beginning. No, just kidding. So anyway, we were back to a point here and I lost my train of thought. But I really think with football, I really believe, as much as I try to study everything I can, entertaining people, so by making them smile, making them laugh. I try to be very respectful to everybody. If somebody has an opinion, they put thought into it, I always respect your opinion. And who am I to say your opinion's wrong? Nobody. I do my research, you do yours. Who cares who does more? Who cares? I respect everybody. You put some thought into it, appreciate it. I'll never tell you, oh, that's not a good idea. So like I said, I offer what I can. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, fine. But I respect you. And that was the same thing in teaching. You taught high school students. Yes. But a lot of teachers make the mistake of they talk down to them and they treat them like just their students. Well, they're human beings. They have, you treat them like human beings. You treat people with respect, no matter who they are, whether they're in fantasy football, whether they're in a classroom, you treat them with respect. And I always found that comes back. If people know you're genuine about it. So some people will be phony. I think people sniff that out, especially students sniff that out if you're a phony to them. But people sniff it out. But if you're genuine and you really care, people pick up on that. The beautiful thing with like social media, very rarely do I get people coming at me with, meanness. And I hope that's because I don't come across like I know everything. I don't. And I know that. But I try to do my best. But I think that mutual respect, I'm not going to throw any shade at you. And maybe that's why you don't throw shade at me. And I appreciate it because it can be tough out there. I've seen some people just get hammered on social media with negativity and mean comments. And fortunately, I've not dealt with it. Now watch, I'll get in my inbox and it'll be loaded up from Doug Orth and the likes of people like that, saying mean things to me. But hopefully it's not the case.
Doug Orth, the mean guy behind closed doors, huh? I love that. So I want to know your story on how the marathons you hosted started. RotoWire, my role with them has grown obviously in the last 3 years since I became full-time. And it's like I said, it's all about community, right? And RotoWire, we do our own thing, but the people at RotoWire have always been supportive of what I've done. And I told them, we've got a little bit of a platform here. Let's bring more people. Let's get some more people involved. I mean, a lot of people are well known anyway, but it's a community thing. It's people hanging out in these marathons, and and then viewers get to see people from different companies and on the same show. It's really more fun, and it's just a people event. That's really what it is. And I always wish we could fit more people in. I think the social media goals of our company are always evolving. And so now they're going with little shorter marathons. And, so we, I was doing 2 days up to 65 guests, and now they're starting to scale them down a little bit. Yeah. So, and that's fine because they understand the dynamics, I guess, of, watch time and all that. But like I said, it's always good when you could just bring people together. And that's really why I love those marathons. And so basically I'm sitting there and it's like having people in your living room. It's basically come in, hang out with you, ask you a couple questions, and let everybody else shine. I don't need to throw my opinions out in these marathons. I got all these wonderful people on there. Let them shine. Yeah, I love what you do, and you bring a lot of people, and it's like back to back. And it's interesting because every single person you bring, they have different perspective on things, and
Mhm.
that's what makes it, beautiful and successful, in my opinion. So I want to ask some like mind-blowing hypothetical questions. So if you
Uh-oh.
could steal one trait from an NFL player and use it in your daily life, what would it be?
One trait from an NFL player. Realistically, the perseverance.
Yeah.
Because people don't think of, and I know they train at a professional level. It is a physical, grueling sport. They are
Yeah.
all hurt. And to be able to continue to play at the level they play while being hurt, that's perseverance. So that's
Yeah.
one trait that I think we all could use.
That's amazing. I love that because you need to have that to continue with life. I agree. If you had a draft, if you had to draft a team made entirely of coaches, who's your first pick?
A team full of coaches.
Yes.
Man, that's a great question. And try to think this one through. See, there's so many coaches that know so many things.
Yeah.
Then there are the coaches that really get through to the players, and they make a major Andy Reid, because the players love him. He teaches them, but he's harsh on them when he needs to be.
Yeah.
But those players all know he cares about them. So it's coaches like Andy Reid that, not because of all the wins, not because of the
No.
Super Bowls, but if you ask his players, whether they're in Philadelphia back in the day, in Kansas City now, I think they'd almost all say the same thing. Um, and I think he really grows people, makes them better football players too. But I think he grows people, and to me, that's a major deal.
I agree with you on that point, and that's why I love this team, only because when his players are hurt, he doesn't put them back to play. That's part of why I love Andy Reid and why I love that team. I've seen a lot of like players got hurt in a game and the coaches send them back. And this is a no-no for me. That's that's a really, really good observation. And I really love that.
Thank you.
So um if a fantasy football includes referees,
Oh,
how would scoring work?
how would scoring work?
Yeah.
Man, I'd like to say the fewer penalties, the better. You know what? This is how we would do it. So basically, every yard of penalty yardage assessed would be a point.
Yeah.
So if you have those coaches that are back judges, you want to draft them because the long downfield passes, they're the ones defending, they're officiating those. Oh, 40-yard pass interference, that's got 40 points. The referee has a line judge, those are 5-yard penalties, maybe occasional 10s. You don't want those so much. The referee might be calling the personal fouls. He gets some 15s in there. Give me the back judges all day long.
No,
You
they
didn't think I have
cannot
an
pull
answer
the
for
law.
that, did you?
No, I didn't. I love it now. What's the one rule change that would make fantasy football the most chaotic sport ever?
The rule that would make it the most chaotic.
Chaotic.
Man, that's a great question too. Let me think this one through for a minute. You know what? Penalty
Yeah.
yardage. Yes, penalties. And or sack, like for a quarterback, sack yardage. You take away a point for every yards lost on a sack. I think all of a sudden you're in your fantasy game and you're on Monday night and your quarterback throws that touchdown. You're winning by 2 points. You think you got it sealed. And then he gets sacked for like a 12-yard loss.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. He fumbles on that as well. So I think you would, that and any play that lost yardage would get like a multiplier against it. I think that would make it in chaos because now you never know when you won a game because you could start going backwards. Yeah, that would be fun. I think I'd like that.
Let's say a fantasy league had post-game press conferences and they want to ask you to answer their questions. What would you say after a really bad week, though? Not a good week, bad week.
After a bad week, I blame the players. I don't blame myself. I'm gonna blame the players. I think I like that. But can I shift your question though? Because there's an answer I want to give. So if you're gonna do a post-game interview for losing a fantasy game, but it was close, here's the mistake that fantasy players make. They watch their scores. Yes. Oh my gosh, I lost my game on Monday night because the kicker missed an extra point, or that running back against me got 3 yards and that cost me my game. No, it didn't. You had 9 players. Your game might have been lost in the second quarter of a Sunday afternoon game that you didn't even see. Definitely. Because that player might have made a mistake that was very easily correctable. It takes 9 players, everybody's points, everybody in that. So if you're doing those post-game interviews, the post-game interviews, he didn't lose me the game, that last guy on Monday night. There's 8 other players. So go back and review them all and tell me who really won your game. That'd be the post-game interview.
Yes. Always blaming the player, right? Never place that the oneself. So let's go with some chaotic and wild predictions for a bit. What would happen if fantasy managers could trade an entire team?
So like trade another team for team?
Yes, the entire team.
So I think the only time that would happen is if you had 2 teams that are near the middle with close to similar records. Nobody's trading the best team for the worst team. That's not happening. And realistically, a top third team's not trading for a bottom third team. So it'd have to be 2 teams in the middle, a 5-4 to 4-5 team. But the 5-4 team kind of likes the potential of the 4-5 team. So that's the only time I think that anybody with a rational mind would make a consideration for trading team for team. But realistically, again, the top teams and the bottom team's not going to get anybody to buy. And obviously the top team is never going to sell.
Yes. Now take me to medieval times, Jim.
When I was born? Oh, okay.
Maybe. Let's see.
Close.
So if fantasy football existed in medieval times, what would the scoring system look like?
Oh, yeah. Based on blood. They'd weigh the blood out. That's what they would do. Medieval times. Oh yeah, there'd be like swords, and there'd be like those things they swung around, like the points coming out of them. I don't even know what to call those. Yeah. So definitely be blood based. I think it'd be somebody trying to collect with like buckets to try like, all right, you got 7 inches of Anyway, I got a little gory. This is a G-rated show. I think I just kind of ruined that for you. But you asked the question, so sorry about that.
I'm fine with that. I don't mind it. I watch horror movies, so I'm fine.
I saw it. Did you get that? Maybe, hopefully. Movie Saw. Have you ever seen? Oh, you did? Okay, good. When you got to explain a joke, it's not funny. I've learned that many times. Too many explained jokes.
Listen, I'm telling you, I watch horror movies, so I saw what you did there.
Nice. Oh yes, you use it right back. Now you know what? Oh my gosh, The Purge. Do you like the Purge movies?
I watch them, and they are insane. I cannot wait for the new one.
There's one coming out again? Oh, my, they're making money. So, oh my gosh. Yes. I shouldn't say I like them, but they're entertaining. They
are. Did you watch them?
Like, I have watched them, yeah.
If we're going to have the Purge.
The last one I saw was weird. It was like one on a ranch or something like that. I think that may have been the last one. That one was a little bit goofy. Sometimes you get too far with a concept. So there's that. And Doug Orth astutely points out this interview has gone off the rails. It was ever on the rails, Doug? Yeah, maybe it was. It was 40 minutes ago.
I'm watching right now the Black Mirror. If you like watching something like that, Black Mirror. It's about all the AI stuff that we are living. It's crazy. I would like. Please watch it. It's really nice. So what do you think about AI in fantasy football?
So
talking about AI.
AI is a factor already, and it really threatens a lot of people that are content creators. Realistically,
Yeah.
You better be bringing some, in my opinion, you better be bringing some real personality to your game. Because if you're not, anything you do, AI can do. AI can set your lineups, give you lineup suggestions. It could give you player profiles. It could give you so much. Yes, look at that. Look at you know mine, but no, I got the long sleeve shirt on. Yeah, so no, I like that. So yeah, AI is gonna be a factor. Like for instance, the companies that write player notes, and I know my company does that too. We were at a meeting, and I said, "All right, I don't follow baseball, but it was baseball season, and I said,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna take a random player from a game." And I'm gonna put it in the chat GPT and I'm gonna say, all right, this player played last night against this team. Write a fantasy note giving what he did and his projection going forward. It was insane. It obviously is instant, it's always instant. It was insane. It was better than anything I would have seen anywhere. So right now, they're always not perfect because sometimes there are errors made, like they might give the wrong information. That's not going to be long. It's not going to be long before the information is going to be like almost always right. So I
Yes.
worry about that.
Me
People
too.
who write articles, pretty much, if you ask AI in the future, give it a year, give it 2 years, and if you ask it, write me an article on whatever thing about football, it's going to spit out a better article than your favorite author is writing. And the beauty of it is they understand to write it short. Like you could instruct ChatGPT. You could say, I want just the meat of the article, but give it to me like optimized, and it'll give it to you in short, digestible pieces. And so there'll be no fluff. There's like no fluff in it. And it just gets to the point and teaches what you want. So it's going to be a thing. But I'm telling, and there are probably people out there that are like content creators. Make yourself as polished as you can on audio and video. Personality, I think, is what is going to survive this, because some way you've got to separate yourself, and that's the one thing. And AI can like fake a personality, but I think a lot of people will buy into personalities because they want to be entertained as well. A lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people want to be entertained. So if you're thinking long term and fantasy, something that you want to do for work on your camera skills, work
Yes.
on, your speaking, whatever it maybe. Even if it's, I continually work on mine, slower, make sure I'm enunciating extremely well, but and make sure the energy and whatever you have. But if you don't work on that, AI is really going to go a long way very fast in a lot of areas of life. And look, if you have a child that's in high school,
Yes.
be very careful and study whether your student should go to college or if there's an alternate route, because AI is going to ice out a lot of jobs. Look, if you're going to go into health, if you're going to go into education, you're going to go into engineering, college degrees are going to be needed for those. But there's a lot of careers like cybersecurity. I'm already learning that if you're going to do cybersecurity, it's certifications, it's internships. College will not prepare you for that. And if you do 4 years of college, A, you'll owe money, but B, you'll have to go back and get the certifications. College is not going to figure that out for a while. So it's very, very concerning. So again, I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm saying is this: figure out what you want to do, or your child, if you're sending a child, and make sure you understand what do they need to do. Like buy and sell says trade school. Yes, if you're going to go into trade, then yeah, you need to go to a trade school. But if your career is going to be research, whether it'll be like AI'd out, I call it, and if it is, then you need to find the path to get there for that. But everybody has to make their own decision. Study it, research it, but you don't. Last thing you want to do is dump 100 grand into a school and then realize when you're out in 4 years, oh my gosh, this is not going to get me where I want to go. So be very careful. AI is really massive. 2030 seems to be projected year when it is really going to take like full root of what it's going to do.
I agree. That's why you need to watch the Black Mirror. I'm not kidding. You should watch that.
I
It's
got to
a
write that
great
down right
advice.
now.
Yeah, great advice. What you're saying here, Jim, because even in school right now, and you know that I teach high school. Even in school right now, they're talking next year they're gonna bring AI, and I heard like a month ago that AI is already in my country. There's a school that offers AI to students. There's no teacher teaching anymore. And if they do any mistake or anything, there's people around them, and you don't have to be a teacher. And she will show them where the right answer is, and it will show them a video to go and figure things out. Never talk to them, nothing. And I was in shock. So we don't know what's next. We don't know as a human being what's next. But talking about AI and talking about fantasy football and about, what it's going to do for school in the future and stuff like that, do you consider that cheating at some point, or do you consider that a smart move for humanity?
So basically, guys, is using AI cheating. Yes. So look, by the letter of the law, it's cheating. And I don't dispute that. But
Yeah.
here's the interesting thing. If I'm in my own personal life and I got to figure out some financial things, and I go to ChatGPT and I
Yeah.
ask, cook me up a plan on helping me with my finances, is that cheating? Being resourceful. Now, the school
Yeah.
system says that this has, but realistically, are you training more for the future by wasting your time? And I'm sorry to say this, wasting your time memorizing some facts,
Agree.
or actually going and finding the answer on ChatGPT? Again, it's an ethical question. From ethics, school says it's cheating, therefore cheating is wrong. Ethically, it's wrong. But in reality, you're probably setting yourself up for future success in life by learning to lean on technology. It's such a crazy gray area because nobody wants to be bad. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. Some people want to be bad. Most people don't want to be bad. And if somebody tells me these are the rules, I try to play by the rules. It's very important for me to do that. But if somebody does it for the right reason, now, if some people are just cheating because they're lazy, that's another story. Oh,
That's
you're just
another
cheating because you're using ChatGPT because you don't want to do anything. You just, that's another story. But if you're actually going to use that for school and you're actually going to learn it from that, you may have served yourself long term. It's a really loaded question. There is no right answer. But again, cheating is cheating. And if you're told that's what it is, then there are consequences for that. So on that angle, that I get.
I agree 100%. There's a big, we can talk a lot about AI, and it's just an amazing topic. So if fantasy football had a mascot, what would it be in your opinion?
If fantasy football had a mascot, I'm trying to think of something that would be a complaining device. Something that would be like some kind of I think we just call it the complainer. The complainer. I think, the mascot would be the complainer. I don't know what that would look like, but we can make it look good. But it'd be the complainer. Yeah. The injuries again. The other team outscored me. It'd be all these. Yeah, the complainer. I like that.
On point. I love it. I love that. It will be the best football fantasy mascot ever. Jim.
Yes.
The complainer.
The complainer. Womp womp.
So I've heard that flag football is in the Olympics right now. If fantasy football had an Olympics, what events would it be included?
So I'm sorry. So you said flag football would be in there, but then
It's
what
gonna
was the
be
second part of
in
the question?
Olympics right now. So we've heard that next year, flag football is going to be in Olympics.
Yeah, and then what was the question beyond that?
So if fantasy football had an Olympics, what event would be included?
Well, it'd have to be the waiver wire winner, the trade guru. That'd be that. The elite drafter, and the winner, and just the winner, the person that wins. Yeah.
We will not take the mascot.
No, the complainer would be the judge.
The complainer will be the judge. That would be the best ever. No one will win, I think, Jim, at this point. So tell me a little bit about, with the complainer. No one. You will never give any points to anybody. I'm complaining right now. So
oh my gosh.
tell me a little bit about your FSWA Football of the Year, Writer of the Year in 2022. How
I
did
was a
you?
runner. I was a runner up for that though.
I
Didn't win it.
know,
It
but
was very exciting. I
it's
didn't
still
even.
a
I
winner
think.
in my eyes. So
Thank you. Well, with all the great people involved, just be named. I mean, it really is.
yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's a great honor to be named with those groups. So yeah, I was very grateful for that. Apparently, my company put me in for that because I'm not one to nominate myself for anything, and they did that. It was nice of them to do that. But yeah, realistically, I don't even know like what it was they sent in. So, but that was again, I was grateful. They must have found something they liked, and they must have sent that through or whatever articles. But yeah, no, I think it's great that people get recognized, and whoever wins each year, they're always. I know Brian. I'm trying to think who just won this past year. I just know who won this year too, and I don't know I think of it, but it's one of my friends too.
We have
Sorry,
Coop. Coop, he won like three, I think, and
Coop,
three of
yeah,
them.
Coop won it. Yeah, Coop. That's what I was saying. Coop won this year. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, Coop won. Coop did amazing. So yeah. So it's good to see people that are just doing great work getting recognized for that. And
I
like I said,
agree.
I didn't win, so that makes me like the other 999 that we're all losers. I was a loser, so yeah, it's all good. But no, you know what? Just be recognized is nice that somebody took the time to say, oh, this stuff is okay. And that made me happy to know that. I think ultimately at the end of the day, all I care about though is if people enjoy my content, if people smile sometimes when we talk, that's all
Hey,
I need. But it was very nice to be recognized. I was very grateful to them.
yeah, Ryan won last year, and Doug is like you. He's waiting for a win too. So hopefully
Yes, yes.
you two will win at the same, maybe same year or something like that. Tell
I
me
would like that.
about, yeah, tell me about SiriusXM and what's the future holds for you at SiriusXM.
So look, I'll be 60 years old real soon. I have no plans of stopping. There's unless health, cognitive decline. If there's some reason I can't do this, fine. I work my tail off, but I never work.
Yeah,
This doesn't work for me. I would do this even if I didn't have it for a job. I mean, the research part of it, and I would talk about it when I could. I would if I didn't have a job, I would do my own streams. I would so realistically, could I be 80 years old doing this? God willing, with health, sure. Go to the gym every day, try to do my best to keep things in my favor. That doesn't mean that tomorrow something could happen, and maybe it is not there. And I understand that. Appreciate every day of health and cognitive ability because I know I saw my dad go through it. So
yeah,
and my mom. So I saw it. So I understand how fickle this is. But you keep going forward and you hope for the best and you just I don't see myself, so whatever I'm doing now, as long as I'm honored enough to have somebody employ me to do this, I'll do it. And if they don't want to keep me around, then I'll probably do it on my own. So yeah, I don't see not doing this because this is just great community of people, and
agree.
to be a part of people's day, that means a lot to me.
That's amazing. And you have it all, Jim. So we all love you. And I'm not just saying that to say it. Um, we walk around the expo and we hear people talk about other people. And you're awesome in what you do. So keep going. Um, we're almost done. I don't wanna finish the episode. I'm just so happy having you here, and it's absolute pleasure. You're one of a kind person. You're a friend that I wait to see at the expo every single year as well. But I do have one more question to ask. So I do that with all my guests, and I ask them if they want to share something or a secret or something that they never shared before with anybody else, out loud maybe. um, what kind of a secret or something you never shared before, Jim, you want to share on the show tonight?
um I don't keep a lot of secrets, so there's that. Definitely could say that. um what I will say is this: the world's a tough place. The world's a
True.
very tough place. And if you let it get you down, it will. And sometimes it's not that easy to say, I'm just going to overcome it, because you can't. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes
Yeah.
real depression hits. But here's what I want you to know: everybody has a story. And sometimes people put on a happy face and their life could be shattered around them.
Yeah.
And So I think the one thing I want to share with everybody is this. Everybody has their own burdens, and some worse than others, of course. Some are horrific. Um, Treat everybody as if they have something going on and give them grace. Give them latitude. Sometimes if somebody gives you a look or says something, it could just be because they have so much stuff going on and you're not aware of it. And so, yeah, I really think that's what I'll say. There was the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It was a life changer. I read it in my 20s and I remember things to this day. Now, the actual story, I'll use a quick story and I'll tell you the paraphrase of it. Now, I'll miss a little bit the concept I won't miss. So, there was a man on a train and there was another man with 2 or 3 kids, and the kids were really unruly. And the one man who was the passenger spoke to the father and he said, "Can't you control your kids?" And the man with the kids, he kind of like shook his head. He's like, "I'm sorry, my wife just passed away and we're coming home and trying to figure things out." So, this guy just was like, "Your kids are unruly." And in reality, it was like, oh my gosh, this man just, lost most important person or one of the most important people to him. And so just always understand. And it's not always the case. Some people are just jerks. But you know what? You can never go wrong just giving somebody grace.
Being kind. You hit home with that, Jim. You hit home with that. Being kind is doesn't take anything. So be kind. Even if you're behind a computer, nobody can see your picture, nobody can see your name, nothing. Being kind is always the most wonderful thing a person can offer. Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing that story. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you. So, before we conclude, Jim, please share how our audience can connect with you on social media.
So the X is pretty much where everything goes at Jim Coventry NFL. I'll be doing a stat of the day now until the end of eternity. No, now until draft season, the middle of draft season. So I'll be there. Those are fun. I try to find one little nugget about a player that's not like commonly seen out there, and so I try to share that because, like I said, I dig every player down to the skids every year. So that's kind of fun. On the socials, RotoWire is always putting up my video. I have a face for radio, but they put me on video, so I'm kind of worried about that. It's not so good. But yeah, you'll find those. And the good news is they put me on TikTok, but I don't dance. So yay, nobody wants to see that either. So we're good there. But yeah, at Jim Coventry and NFL across all platforms. You catch me there. That's probably because everything I do, I just kind of reflect there so everybody can find that.
So I know that you're going for JJ and Doug's podcast soon as well. Are you gonna be on their pod soon?
Oh, sure. Doug said he'd get back to me that night. And yeah, it's like 2 weeks later. So yeah, I know where I stand with him. He tells me I'll get back to you. And yeah, I'll talk to JJ and we'll see what's going on. Yeah, 2 weeks later. I know I'm unimportant. I understand how this thing works.
I think you're not important. They're overthinking it.
I bet you it's a May 20th show and Doug will get to me on May 21st. Wait, the day after the show. Jim, are you coming on? Sure,
Maybe
Doug. When is it? Yesterday.
You at the expo.
So yeah. Oh, that was nice. That was nice, Doug.
We're sorry. Me and Jim, we're like that. We're not nice. We're people. We love people, but yeah.
I had to do it. You gave me that opening, and I knew Doug was sitting right there, and I could not pass it up.
I love you for that, Jim. You know it.
Oh, goodness.
So, thank you all for joining us tonight with this episode of The Game Changers. I hope my discussion with Jim provided valuable insights into his experiences in fantasy football and life itself. Join me for the next episode after 2 months. So May is going to be off. June is going to be off. And then July, I'm going to have Coop come in on the show as my special guest. So keep on looking on the page on X and Blue Sky, and you will see a lot of information there. I would really like to acknowledge JC for his contribution behind the scenes and the whole entire TSA team. Please subscribe for the podcast. It's only on YouTube, and leave us feedbacks because it's important for our improvement. follow the social media, the Sports Affiliation community, where everyone is welcome. Jim, any last word before we end?
This is a remarkable show that you've had going for 78 episodes, and you've had me here twice, so thank you for that. And really, this is great. We need shows that are different, and I like how you use the name Game Changers, and it's really about who people are. And I think it's great because we're into this hobby, but ultimately we're people. So thank you for the service that you're doing to all of us. And I see you're building a heck of a community, and it's well earned. So continued success.
I love you all. You know that. Thank you so much. That's such an honor coming from you, Jim. I really appreciate it. So until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla and Jim Coventry signing off, wishing you a pleasant evening, everybody. Bye.